Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to kick things off today with a little bit of a story. And it begins when I was 7 years old with curly, strawberry blonde hair that was noticeably recovering from a botched haircut. I had realized that Crayola did not come equipped with a strawberry blonde crayon. So I had taken it upon myself to adorn a self-portrait with my own hair. So I recall my mother's face as I proudly came into their bedroom, showing what I had created, only to see her face and her eyes well up with tears as she saw her daughter, who now had a massive bald spot right on the front of her head. Needless to say, that year I got a perm to cover up said bald spot, and at the Bernell house, we were now encouraged to make collages. My mom wanted me to start using scissors to make more productive crafts. So we set up a station in my room. She gave me all of her old People magazines. And I can remember flipping through the magazine, looking at all of the images when I stopped. I was mesmerized. In front of me was an image that looked unlike any of the other images in the magazine. I saw women in this image that had different shapes, different sizes, they were different ages, some had wrinkles, and others had thighs. For the very first time in my life, I saw women in a magazine that looked real. This was 1994, and this was a part of the Dove Real Body campaign that engaged America in a conversation around the unobtainable standards being placed on women's bodies. Dove understood the importance of showcasing what real women looked like. Now, 7-year-old me did not appreciate or really understand the significance of this experience, nor did I anticipate that I would have a similar realization later on in life. So, 7-year-old me grew into a slightly taller young adult with a little bit of a better haircut and a deep, deep passion for the food industry. I began my career as a line chef, working at one of Houston's 5-star restaurants, crafting culinary creations. I then moved into the R&D and new product development labs, working with Payway and Panera, developing your favorite soups and sauces that you see on the menu. I then made my way into brand and marketing roles, working with McDonald's and Pop Chips, before taking a deep dive into the world of grocery retail when I worked with Safeway as well as Cliff Bar. In a nutshell, I've seen a lot of food, but the carrots that came through the back door in the kitchen, they looked like this. They were the carrots that I worked with in the food lab, that I saw in the grocery stores. But the reality is that nothing, much like my experience until age 7, flipping through magazines, was actually real. Because real carrots, they don't look like this, they look like this. Real carrots, they curl, they're different shapes, they're different sizes, but you nor I ever see real food, and that fact perpetuates a deeply masked, unchecked obsession with perfection. Now, I spent over 2 years researching the food waste space before deciding to launch my own business that sources misshapen produce and crafts it into delicious products called reBLEND. And in doing so, I've had the opportunity to speak with countless retailers and distributors, grocers, manufacturers, trying to understand the reason why in the United States, we are so blinded to the presence of real food, and why each year, over $218 billion, i.e. 1.3% of our GDP, is spent growing, processing, transporting, and then disposing of food that will never reach a plate. Why each year 52.4 million tons of produce is never going to reach a plate by being transferred straight to the landfill, and why an additional 10.1 million tons are left on the farm unharvested. Now, this amasses to over 63 million tons of waste each and every year. And this exorbitant amount of waste is happening at a time when 1 out of 7 Americans are already food insecure. Now, when looking at this waste, there are deeply embedded, tangled networks of inefficiencies. On one end, you have what is called downstream waste. This is the waste that people generally are familiar with. This is the plate waste, the restaurant scraps, the perfectly edible goods that get rerouted to landfills. But there's an additional 10.1 million ton waste stream that many of us never even knew existed, even those of us that have spent our entire careers in the food space. This is called upstream waste, the fruits and vegetables that never make their ways off the farm. Now, when we say waste, I want to be clear. We're talking about apples that are 2 ounces too small to be considered cosmetic grade, so they rot on the tree. We're talking about bell peppers that aren't quite the perfect bell shape, so they're disregarded to compost. Or a harvest of cauliflower that endured a few sunburns, so the farmer no longer has an outlet to sell them, so they're left on the fields, left to rot, left uneaten. What really hit home for me, though, was when I actually began to take a look at what this produce was like. So today, I am here to conduct a highly scientific experiment with you all. And I've actually brought you some examples. So on the left is produce that without the work of a distributor who worked directly with farmers, never would have left the farm. And on the right are the exact same items that I went to the grocery store to pick up. So I don't know if there are 2 brave audience members that would be willing to partake in said experiment. Okay, do you mind coming up? Stand right there, that's perfect. Okay, so left hand, this is the misunderstood produce. You're good right there. And right here, this is retail. So if you guys would not mind turning around and taking a bite first of the misunderstood apple. Small. Everyone watch as they chew. Okay. Now the right, and you're done chewing. Okay, can you tell me something? Did the apple on your left, did it taste funky? Did you need to spit it out? Did it taste bad? And that is exactly the problem. What you see right there, thank you both, probably does not make a lot of sense. Yes, thank you. Thank you. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And not only is this problem perplexing, it's also causing very real-world impacts. It means that our farmers, the men and women on the front line of our ability to eat fresh fruits and vegetables, they struggle each year to pay back their annual loans, as a third of their harvest might be deemed cosmetically unsuitable, therefore unsellable. It means that in the United States, the average age of farmers is now 55 to 60 years old. As their kids are flocking out of the profession, they've seen their parents struggle each and every year when they discover a third of their harvest is sunburnt cauliflower. And on top of that, our soil, the bedrock of our entire ecosystem, is being eroded and depleted of critical nutrients and minerals as we work to grow more and more on the exact same land without taking advantage of all that it already is offering. If we are going to feed the 9 billion global citizens projected by 2050 and make some shifts so that we can actually inhabit this land, we've got to start asking ourselves some important questions. And we need to start to demand more of the businesses we spend our money on. But I want to be very clear. This conversation on food waste does not have to be depressing. If anything, what excites me most is that unlike so many of the other man-made disasters that we have created for ourselves, this can be reversed. And if there is anything you take away from today's talk, it's the importance of understanding that your daily decisions do matter. So I want to leave you with 4 quick takeaways. First being, start talking. When you say the word food waste, people have an immediate association with just downstream waste, without understanding all the cycles of waste happening upstream. There's some great resources out there, like Food Tank, that hosts conferences as well as publishes material on their social channels. It's incredibly easy to learn more and share with others. Number 2, vote with your wallet. There's businesses out there like Imperfect Produce or reBLEND that are rolling up their sleeves, becoming waste warriors, trying to make a difference. It's important to understand that the more businesses that are out there sourcing misunderstood produce, that is going to be critical to shaping the supply chain. Because as more businesses come online, they create more demand that in turn signals to farmers that there's an economic incentive for them to reshape the way that they harvest. Number 3, tell your retailers. Now, at the end of the day, farmers will only harvest, and retailers, they will only purchase what they think you want. You're in the driver's seat. Start talking to your local grocer. There's examples of companies like Whole Foods that have already started to pilot programs where they're bringing in imperfect produce. So start telling your local grocery store that you want to see that show up on your shelves too. But for probably most importantly, I ask you to put a pause button on your cookie cutter, Instagram filter focus of perfection. Because I think Dove got something right back in 1994. It really is the imperfections that make this world beautiful. Thank you.